welcome everyone to the first program in 2021. And I wish you all safety and good health and look forward to be with you on many occasions. I'd like to introduce members of our team who will raise their hand. Judy Willett, our Senior Project Manager, Susan Rowlett, our Director, colleague Chris White, our Clinical Social Worker, and you've met Nori, our Program Coordinator. And we're thrilled. We're really, really thrilled that you're with us tonight. A word about our program. Many of you are familiar, but I'd love to tell you that the Caregiver Support Program of the Dementia Care Collaborative was started at Mass General Hospital in 2017. We're part of the Palliative Care and Geriatric Medicine Unit. And as many of you know, our mission is to transform memory care, nothing less than that. We exist at Mass General to educate, connect, and support. And we're here for patients, caregivers, clinicians, for everyone. That's why we're so happy you're here. We offer care consultations to caregivers and patients in specific Mass General clinics, skills classes for caregivers, support groups, and health and resiliency programs as well. The Caregiver Support Program is entirely funded through philanthropy. And if you're interested in learning how to support our program, please reach out to any of our team members at any time. We look forward to hearing from you. And now it's my spectacular pleasure to introduce our very special guest for tonight, Erica Curcio. By the way, you'll notice Erica's website is in chat as well as her Instagram. We'll also provide that later. Erica is a registered art therapist and licensed mental health counselor. She attended Lesley University, where she received her master's in clinical mental health counseling. And Erica specializes in working with people living with dementia and their care partners. She provides home-based and virtual art therapy sessions with a focus on enhancing the quality of life of the client as well as family members. And Erica uses, which is what we'll all experience tonight, she uses and teaches about how art therapy can create new connections and reconnect people living with dementia to the outside world. I'm so excited about the program for all of us. And so now, without further ado, I introduce Erica. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen so you can see presentation. Oh, a little ahead of myself. Hi, my name is Erica Curcio, and like Barbara said, I am a registered art therapist and a licensed mental health counselor. I provide art therapy in the homes of persons living with dementia. So I go to their homes and I do art therapy with them. Since the fall, I've started offering virtual art therapy, and that is for the person living with dementia and also their caregiver. So the three of us actually all create art over Zoom. And I'm also the community art therapist at Goddard House Assisted Living in Brookline, Massachusetts. I am thrilled to be here today. I have a real passion about working with people living with dementia because I feel as if they still have voices that need to be heard, and maybe they don't have that ability to use those voices, and art really gives them the ability to speak how they need to speak. So the goals for today is to enter the mind of someone living with dementia. So the best way that we can help someone is to take a walk in their shoes. And so my hope is that by the end of this presentation, you'll feel like you can flip your switch and kind of look at life through the eyes of someone living with dementia. Also, understanding the role of the art therapist for someone living with dementia. I'm also going to offer some creative strategies for successful art creation and some self-reflection techniques. I really think that every person living with dementia has creative potential. I think that it's up to us, the person not living with dementia, to help them unlock their creative potential. And so what I'm going to ask of you right now is that you take out the piece of paper that you plan to create on. So this rectangular piece of paper, and I just want you to put it in front of you. And what happens for you when I say create something? You can use the chat box to kind of put any words that you're feeling right now. So are you anxious? Are you excited? Are you nervous? Are you confused? Like, what is coming up for you right now? And so the next thing that I'd like you to do is I'd love for you to take this rectangular piece of paper and turn it into a square. So you can do one of two things. You can either cut the edge off and turn it into a square, or you can fold back your paper to create a square. And so you want to be, if you do fold the paper, what you want to do is make sure that you're looking at the paper when it's flat in front of you. So the folded side is to the back. And so what's going on for you right now? Are you thinking any differently when you have a square in front of you? So the importance of the square is that any way you look at it, there's no up, there's no down, there's no right, there's no left. It's a piece of paper that has potential, and there really is no wrong way to use it. Now I want you to take this square piece of paper and get either a marker or get a pen or a pencil, and I want you to draw a circle. So you're going to draw a circle that's pretty big in the middle of your paper. And so what does that do for you, having a circle in front of you on this piece of paper? Are there any changes that are going on for you? For me, a circle is an invitation. It brings along different pieces. So it brings along the ability to make a choice. So am I going to be in the circle? Am I going to be out of the circle? Again, it goes along with the square. There's no up, there's no down. It keeps going. It's a place. It's an invitation. So what I'd like for you to do next is I'd like for you to add an open-ended prompt. And so the prompt that I want you to use is "Today I learned." And you're going to write that at the top of your paper. And so in front of you, your paper should look something like mine. So at the top it says, "Today I learned," there's a big circle, and you're working on a square surface. Now, what if I said, "Create something"? What is the difference between saying "create something" at the very beginning and saying "create something" to you right now? You can put in the chat box what your different feelings are, just a word or a phrase that you're thinking in your mind. So I see focus, required a little thought. It feels more contained now. Structure. A smiley face. So what, now you have structure, yes. So what this little setup that I have is really how I like to start with someone who's living with dementia. I want you to take this piece of paper and just put it aside. You can put it just off to the side in your line of view. We're going to go back to this piece of paper at the very end. Using this setup of the circle and the prompt is a way that I am creating structure for someone living with dementia. And it's also a way that I am assessing where they're at. And so someone might be able to just be fine with the circle. They might be fine with a blank piece of paper. That's also us, right? I might be fine with a piece of paper, but the person in the Zoom box next to me might really need a circle. They might need something to invite them in to get them started. And so someone living with dementia is no different than that. And so when I'm offering this prompt and a circle, I'm offering them opportunities. And I'm assessing, can they read still? Are they able, if they can read, can they cognitively process what they're reading? Do they have a relationship to the black line? So can they see the black line? Kind of what's going on with their decision making? When they start to participate, how are they using the art supplies? Are they deciding to be outside or inside? Do the lines not even matter? What's wonderful about having a prompt at the top of the page is that if the person forgets and they still have the cognitive ability to read, they can go back to that prompt and not have to continually ask, like, well, what are we doing? They may also be very engaged with just the words on the page. And so that's their engagement, that the letters, they mean something to them. And so what this also offers on the paper for them is a sense of comfort. Using a circle, it offers just a space to be. So much of life is just all over the place. And when you have structure in front of you, you feel more at ease. It also offers a container. So it offers a place to just put everything out on the table. It offers a place where anything is possible. And it also offers choice. So it's okay if somebody chooses to work outside the circle. In the end, it doesn't matter. It's that they chose to participate. Are they choosing to create art, or are they choosing to engage with the letters? Are they choosing to just be with the paper? There's just a whole bunch of options here that the person can really dive into, and whatever they choose, whatever they bring to the table is right. So I'd like to give two examples of two different people that I have previously worked with and how they responded to something like this. And so the person on the left is an artist representation. So I recreated this. It was a very profound moment for me as an art therapist, and I just didn't get a picture of it, but it has stayed with me for several years now. So that's the one on the left, and the one on the right is an actual person living with dementia's artwork that they created. And so if you were looking at these just as someone who's just, oh, you know, somebody created art, like, which one would you be more attracted to? Which one would you call art? And so I think that most people would say that the one on the right was more successful, that the one on the right was done better, that the one on the right, the person they just created something. And I want to challenge that thought. the two people, they're very different, but what they both did is they engaged. They both participated, and they both put themselves out on the line to participate, right? So that, and they use the container, that circle, and they made marks. Both have a very difficult time verbalizing their needs and their wants, like a lot of people living with dementia. But what they did with that paper is they put their needs and their wants in that paper, and they both connected to the paper. And so it's not about what is created. It's about the process that these two people had as they created. It's about the connection that I, as an art therapist, have to them as a person who's creating art. And the one on the left took about 10 minutes. The one on the right took about 30 minutes, but both people were extremely engaged in what they were doing. And their marks were focused and purposeful, and they meant something, and they still mean something. Because once those marks are down on the paper, they have meaning. And so I encourage you that if you are working with someone or you're doing art with someone, that every mark they make means something. And so if you can take anything away, is that even the slightest little doodle that doesn't make sense to you makes a whole lot of sense to that person living with dementia, to that artist that created that piece of art in their mind. And so the person on the left, we moved into some other kind of art making because this maybe didn't work for them to totally express themselves. And the person on the right, we continue to work with a circle, and they start in the circle every time, and then they leave the circle. And they ask questions like, where should I go? What should I do next? When the whole time they know exactly where to go, they know what they're doing, and they make those marks. And so I think that that question is just so much of what their day is filled like, that when they get the opportunity to go and do what they want, they might have to ask it, but they really know where they want to go. They know what they want to do. And so the role of the art therapist is to be with the person. It is to 100% be focused on this person that is creating art. It's going to look different with every single client I have. We do different things. And so what we're doing is what they want to do. And so my approach is that it's not about my agenda. It's not about a project to create with them. It's about setting them up to start and allowing them to be there and support them. And so in art therapy, we talk about the third hand. And I really feel like this applies to someone living with dementia because I am that third hand, metaphorically. I try not to be physically involved with their art unless they need that supportive service, but really just be this support on the sideline, cheering them on, encouraging them to keep going when they might question themselves. And then also being able to be there when they do have a question or when they have a comment that is really expressing who they are underneath, and allowing them to help and helping them really just get who that person is on the inside out onto either the art or just out of their mouths or out of their movements, and allowing them to really express themselves. I emphasize that I am there to be with the creator. I'm not there to teach them a skill. I'm not there to be with somebody else. I'm there to be with that person and give that person undivided 100% attention. And oftentimes it's art making with me is more successful because it's just this time that this person knows that they're going to have my undivided attention. One of the big things that I do is with some clients, I will mirror their movements, and I always mirror verbalizations. So if the person is creating and they start to speak, I might mirror those words and say them back to them. And what I'm doing is showing them that I'm still there. I am still 100% focused on them, and that I am this person that they can rely on. And the biggest goal that I have when working with someone with dementia is that I give them control and that they feel like they have that control. So if I come with art supplies and I come with a starting point, they take it on their own. So if there's a project, I'm not dictating what they do at the different steps. I'm actually starting them, and then they're going off on this journey. And I'm there with them, encouraging, guiding, just being that support that they need to be successful and to really enhance their day and enhance their life. And I'm validating their experience. So as I'm mirroring what they're saying, what they're doing, I'm also verbally validating. And so one of the things that I love to say to someone is, so as they're going, and if they're really focused and they're making the marks and all their decisions, and I can sense this level of confidence, I might say something like, wow, you really look like a person who knows what they're doing. I bet you've always been like that. And the range of responses that I get from that comment, it totally varies. But a lot of them will agree with me and be like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. They may not verbally agree, but they might start to giggle. They might start to smile as they're creating. But sometimes I get back, yeah, but I don't have that anymore. Or yeah, but nobody sees me anymore. And it's in those moments that I'm reminded why I do this work and why I give people the ability to express themselves. Because if that person wasn't able to verbally express themselves, that might show up later on as a behavior. So my hope in allowing somebody to feel comfortable enough to express that maybe they do feel less than, that their cup gets a little bit less feelings of yuckiness, and that later on in the day, they feel better about themselves because they were seen, valued, heard, all from our experience. So how do I get started? The most important thing, if you're going to make art with someone, is to prep the scene. I can't say it enough. You need to prep a scene that just looks so delicious, it just wants to be devoured. And what I mean by that is that you're being aware of contrast. And so if, say for instance, you want to work with a white canvas, that white canvas is sitting on a dark surface. So the tabletop is not white, because oftentimes people have issues with depth perception, and they're not going to see that canvas if it's put on a white tabletop. And so you're really not setting them up for success. I like to put out brown craft paper and then have something on top of it that is of a different color, a different contrast. Also, if you know that you want to do something like painting with someone, that you're offering up maybe 3, 4, 5 options, and that you're giving your loved one the ability to just choose between those very few options. So it's almost like you are a pre-selector. You're pre-selecting things to set that person up for success, and you have everything out already before they enter the room. You also want to make sure that you're minimizing distractions. Are they working on a clean table? Is it cluttered? Are they likely to get engaged with something else at the table? Is there music playing in the background? How does your loved one react when there's a lot of auditory stimulation in the air? How do they react just in that space? Are they going to be making art in a space that's very chaotic? Maybe making sure that it's a safe space. It's already established as safe for them. And then how do we invite them to create? So some people, you can say, let's make art. And they're like, yes, let's make art. And then other people, you say, let's make art. And they go, no. Or you say, do you want to make art? And they say, no. And so in those moments, I would encourage you not to offer up a yes or no question, because you have a 50-50% shot that they're going to say yes. You also have a 50-50% shot that they're going to say no. And so if you offer up a different way of putting it out there, you might say something like, I have something for you in the other room and I want to go check it out. Will you come with me? I want you to see something. When you're approaching with energy, like, I have something so exciting that you really need. It's almost like just selling. You really are trying to sell to this person to get them into the space that you want them to be in. Positive connections are really important. And what I mean by this is that you are using art when somebody is in a good space, and you're introducing new art techniques to somebody who's in a good space. If you offer art as a redirection tool and they're not in a good space, so somebody is agitated or they're just not themselves, and you want to offer art up to them to give as a redirection tool, unless that person has already created positive connections with art making, they're not going to want to make art. It's also not going to change their mood because it's something new. They have to be in a good space to learn something new. If you want to use it as a redirection tool, it needs to be something that they've already had a previous positive connection. Otherwise, as this redirection tool to something new and they don't like it, well, now you've created a negative connection. And that negative connection is going to stay. They're going to be like, well, I didn't like that the last time. I'm not going to do it again. And so you, in a sense, set yourself up to not get them to participate another time. So it's always good to bring something new, art making, anything really, when someone's in a good space, to make a good connection with it so that you can use it as a redirection tool in the future. And a lot of times you'll hear, well, meet them where they are. Yes, I want you to meet your loved one where you are, but I also want them, meet them where you are, you as the care partner, because if you feel uncomfortable about doing something new, or if you feel uneasy or not confident, they're going to pick up on that. And so when you start presenting things that you don't feel comfortable with, well, they're not going to feel comfortable with. They're going to pick up that energy and they're going to mirror that energy. So I want you to present things that you feel comfortable doing. So I have some art ideas that you can do with your loved one living with dementia. And the first one is creating image cards. I think that this is a great way to have, it's almost like a stepping stone into creating art. It's the first step to see. So if you don't feel comfortable doing art with your loved one, you can try to use image cards. And these, the picture that you see and these that I have in front of me are image cards that I created. And I want to encourage you to create image cards with the person living with dementia. And in terms of prepping the scene, your role is to go through a magazine and pick out images that are contrasting, images that make you think, images that take you back to another period of time, images you feel like make you think of your loved one, and take like 5 or 6 images, rip them out of the magazine, cut them down, bring them to your loved one, and see which one they like, which one they don't like, and have them pick out some images from there. And then to make it more of a positive connection that they have with these image cards, you're gonna take that image that you cut out. So for instance, this is something that I cut out of a magazine. So I cut it out, and what I would do with someone is I would bring black piece of paper, a black cardstock, and together we would glue it onto the paper, and together we would cut it out. And then this would become that person's stockpile of image cards. And what you did was you gave them choice. You brought the images, you pre-selected, you had all the control, and then you handed it over and said, which ones do you like? And so let's turn this into something that we can do together. And so you create the image cards, and then you have conversations about them. You can ask the person any kind of question. So this is a picture I know of Greece, but I might say, I wonder where this is. Just throw it out into the world. And then I'm going to wait for a response. It can take someone living with dementia up to 10 seconds to really process and to be able to respond back. And so if you wait those 10 seconds, you might get an answer. You might get, I don't know, which is fine. And you might get something prompted from their memory. And then I might say, would you want to go here? Or would you want to live here? Asking one single question of the person, and then waiting for them to respond. And so you can keep this arsenal of image cards just as this is your stepping stone into creating art. The next thing that you can try if you're feeling very confident with the image cards is creating in a circle together. And so what I mean by this is that you're not just handing a circle to your loved one and saying, all right, here, create. You're sitting beside that person and you two are doing it together. So you have one and they have one, and you're sharing art supplies, offering something like we did before. The circle allows them to make those choices and those decisions, but you're giving them a container to be in. And together, the two of you will have very different things, or you might have similar things, but it's the act of doing something together that's going to enhance your relationship, and it's going to allow you to see maybe your loved one in a new light, and also allow them to see you in a different light. And the last thing that you can do is open-ended painting. So if you're feeling really confident and you are trying to come up with different things that you've tried things and they're all working, everything's working. Your loved one may not need as much structure as the circle. They may actually need more space to really just let it out. And so when you're offering something like open-ended painting, it's offering contrast between the canvas and the paper, or you might want to level up and get an easel. And so this painting right here was done by a client, and I brought an easel to their house and put the canvas up, and this person just, it was a way that they really were able to express themselves in a way that we hadn't seen before. And so this was really what this person was doing every week. It was a new canvas. It was different color selections, and every mark of this painting and every mark that they made with all of their paintings meant something, and you could hear it in their voice. And so they would just be so confident when creating, and to have that confidence and to see someone feel confident in themselves is just a wonderful experience. And so right now, I would like to circle back to your circle and your prompt. So today I learned, and I want you to take 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, and I want you to either use the magazine that you brought or use the art supplies that you brought, and I want you to put something on the paper. I want you to go where you feel gravitated to go off of the prompt. Today I learned. And so I'll give you 5 minutes to do this. And when you are feeling complete, you can, in the chat box, express what you created. It's too bad you can't just take pictures and put them all in the chat box, but either in a word or a phrase, just what's something you learned? So if you could write in the chat box, a lot of you have. I like bright colors. I learned how to use art to make my loved one feel engaged and in control of their choices. I learned my need for sleep, comforting myself, is reflected in a complex photo reminding me of my loved one with dementia. Being prepared to travel the road of your client is key. Loved one's complex history, commanding respect for others and receiving great respect from others as well. Humility and authority. Confirm that there is no right or wrong way to view art. That is so important. Offering choice is key, and not right or wrong to create art. Providing a gentle prompt, so helpful. Art is a way to communicate in the here and now. Yes, very, very much present. If I've learned anything from people living with dementia, is that life is so important to be lived in the present. I learned today that establishing a positive connection with art can take multiple steps for a person with dementia. So any personal expression is that, it's personal. Yeah, and so creating art with anyone is going to be different. There's no set way to do it. I might be inclined to start a certain way, but it's really that person living with dementia that takes me on a journey. It's not me taking them on a journey. It's them taking me on a journey and being able to follow and ride along with them. And so that is my presentation for today. If you want to learn anything more about dementia and art therapy, I provide a lot of tips on Instagram. You can find me as a traveling art therapist, and that also is on Facebook as well. And before we mention my website is ericacurcio.com. I really want to thank you for being here. I am just so honored. Thank you to the Mass General group for having me. And I guess I will turn it back over to you, Barbara. Oh, let me exit my shared screen. You're muted.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I will say, I will wait for some important questions. I want to say, I kept writing down, Erica, C words. There were so many wonderful ones: container, control, choice, conversation, care partner, confidence. And actually, by the time I finished with all the lists and with my project, I actually felt more carefree than I have felt in a very long time. One comment I would like to make, and then we'll look at for others. You know, it was so powerful for me when you spoke of course, the cooperation between care partner and a person with dementia, and the rare opportunity to be doing something together. But then what you said is that the care partner, who we know is frequently busy 24/7. I hear all the time, I never stop because I'm, because of COVID, I don't have the help I have. I'm doing everything, I'm doing everything in my power to keep my loved ones safe and well. And I'm running, which is saving the life of the person you love. And the person with dementia is seeing the care partner, run as fast as he or she can. And that is often life and required. And yet what you've taught me, if we can help both care partner and loved one carve out even half hour for that magical moment when each is experiencing each other, absolutely present, that's really quite spectacular. You're helping us know how to give a gift, because in fact, we always talk about being present with the person with dementia, but sometimes, now especially, as caregivers are working so much harder even than usual because there's so much less help. It's hard to just suddenly sit down and say, okay, let's be present, but to come together around a circle and maybe share that circle. Really, you've helped me flip my switch. So I thank you. And because we're not talking, because you're offering, I really see this as a magnificent opportunity in a very hard day, often for a person with dementia and care partner, just a way to take a break. And it can yield something so good. So thank you for that. Let's see. Here's another comment from Laurel, who says she noticed that the art showed her that she didn't recognize both of us as a team. Interesting. So Laurel is acknowledging just that point, that the art is bringing you together as a team, which is so spectacular, because in fact you are. But we're so busy. You're so busy. You don't always have the opportunity to cultivate that. Let's see. Erica's 5-minute prompt of the day yesterday was awesome. I took a break and it turned out I let myself go for, 10 whole minutes. So Erica.
Yeah, what she's talking about is right now on Instagram, I'm doing a self-care invitation. So every day you're getting a new art prompt, and the point is to take 5 minutes for yourself. So yesterday I had everyone create a mandala and taking the 5 minutes. And so I know Laurel took 10 minutes and she was like, I feel so guilty. But you have to recharge your batteries. You have to take that time for yourself so that you can be the best person in the present for your loved one.
My question is, in fact, about care partners, Erica. You talked about the beauty of the connection. Do you find that it's at times a challenge for you to encourage these very busy care partners to sit down and join the activity, only because they're so busy and they want to get other things done perhaps while you're there?
Yeah, so I've had a range of people that I've worked with. And so for some, I'm working with their loved one while they're getting something done. For other people, they see the strengths and the quality of their loved one that they used to know in the art making process, and they want to be part of that. So they're at the table as well. It's really a variety depending on probably the person's connection with the person living with dementia. But I think that the common goal of anyone when I'm meeting with a family and starting with their loved one is, I just want my loved one to be happy. I just want them to connect. And so by offering the different offerings as an art therapist that I mentioned before, so the choice, the validation, the now I can't remember, but by offering those things, that is really bringing their loved one's best person forward, their best foot forward.
That's wonderful.
And that's what people want to see, right? You want, at the end of the day, you want this person to be happy.
When you work with, for example, the assisted living, do you often work with more than one person at a time at a table? And what is that dynamic sometimes like?
Yeah, so it looks very different now because of COVID, but before COVID, it was a wonderful community. You could have like 8 people around a table. Now, I'll be honest, I struggle because you can't have that anymore, and how there's just so many barriers in the way, and trying to create this perfect oasis. Like, that's always my goal, is to just create an oasis where this person can feel their best self. And so that's really challenging with COVID, and just trying to figure out what works. And then also meeting with people one-on-one. And it seems like the one-on-ones are what people are really craving right now. And after working with someone a few times, I can figure out what works for them and what doesn't. And so what doesn't, just goes away. And what does is what I'm presenting, the offering.
That's great. And I have a question. Can you share with us one of the most surprising experiences you've had working with a team of a person with dementia and their care partner?
Actually, that image that I presented, well, both of those images actually have a lot of meaning to them. So the image of the circle with the 6 dots, I knew that there was something was put there. Something really, really important was put there. The person couldn't tell me what it was, but I knew. And when I left that person's house, I said, that paper is very important. And their loved one said, well, yeah, I come back the next week. And the story that was shared with me was that we created something else that day. And so the loved one was like, this is the offering. And the person with dementia kept pointing to that paper. So what we see as valuable through our eyes, maybe the person with dementia doesn't have that same experience. And it's that experience with that piece of paper. And I don't think I'll ever forget that. The other one, that picture, that person, the first time that I met with them, no eye contact made. They were very rigid in themselves. And about 30 minutes into it, they said, I'm done. They're done. And they looked up at me for the first time after 30 minutes. Like, not even when I first arrived at their house, I had no eye contact. Their head was down. Like, I couldn't tell what their visual field was. So I'm always trying to identify, can this person actually see? What do I have to do to help them see? And they go from this rigid inward expression, lift up, everything relaxes, turns to me and says, how did we get acquainted? And I was like, I just couldn't believe it, because that was the first interaction they had with me. And ever since that moment, I've strived to give this person that moment every single time. And it doesn't happen every single time. It happens like 1 out of 3 times. But the fact that they can have those magical moments of connection, and I can literally see it in their body, their complete language just opens up, and they get softer, and like a smile arises. And it's so fascinating. It's a somatic experience. And so that's what the art making does for them.
I, for one, will always take that with me. It reminds me of something else you said, which is so important, that when you can create that moment, that oasis for the person with dementia to feel choice, to feel expression, whatever is her or his expression, then hopefully you're helping that person unload some, because otherwise you may see it later on in the day as a behavior. And yet if you're helping me dilute some of my tension, then it may not come out later. And that's really terrific. Have you had that kind of feedback from caregivers at times?
Yeah, one person, I often feel like I'm not doing anything other than giving them art supplies. And I often feel like they have no relationship to me. And I hear the feedback from the care partner the week later, like, oh, they had such a wonderful time. They talked about the artwork, they were pointing, they were showing their children. And I am like, I have no idea that you're having this experience, but they're having it, and they're sharing it verbally, physically, with other people, how much they love when I'm there, but I don't feel like they love when I'm there. So it's very interesting. One thing I will say is, I didn't talk about, like, when I assess someone, I watch how they use the art supply, and I figure out which art supply is going to help them be expressive. And so is it something, do they need to like really hold on to something? And so for that person, I might do craypas. And so that's what that image was, the one image that I showed you. And so that works for that person. And I found this out because when we were doing watercolors, they were very harsh on the paper. They were harsh with the brush, and that's just not the right medium for them. And so figuring out what medium works for someone, I thought, oh, offering watercolors will help this person flow better. But that's just not right for that person. And a lot of times it's trial and error, figuring out what is going to work for someone.
That message is so profound. Trial and error. Same thing does what works today may not work tomorrow.
Yeah.
And also the individual with dementia is unable to express in words to you, oh yeah, I like watercolor or not. And you are so patient. As you said, you're present and you observe. I love the way you describe how you observe body language and you want to test my visual field. Are there, generally speaking, but rarely is it general, do you notice if people with progressive dementia are perhaps more attracted to bright colors, dark colors, or again, is it each individual?
You know, I haven't figured that one out. What I will say is it's important to look at the tone of a color. So if something has a lighter tone, it might be more difficult for someone to see, but then somebody else it might be perfectly fine for them to see. I suggest not using colors that look alike, because if someone is having visual issues, they might see that color as the same color. So if it's right next to each other on the color wheel, I'm thinking just purple and blue. Somebody might get those two confused, or purple and red, because they're right next to each other. So it might be best to work with colors that are contrasting. So like whatever the opposite color on the color wheel is.
That's very helpful. So you do a lot of diagnoses, as you said, in the moment when with the medium of art.
Yeah, and just seeing, it's so important how they're using it, what they're deciding to use. I like to give choices. Once I've worked with someone a few times and I feel that they can make those decisions, I'll say, oh, do you want to work with this, whatever, chalk pastel, right? Or do you want to work with oil pastel? And so found out very quickly that chalk pastels was not the right material to be used because they were covered in chalk all over them. And then we found out that oil pastels are better. But it's like I said before, the trial and error, and families have been so wonderful just giving multiple opportunities to figure out, does this work for their loved one, and like what works.
That's so great. I'll ask my colleagues, Susan, Nori, Judy, do you have any questions given the work we do and the people we meet with? Anyone else have any questions at the moment? I think everyone has expressed, I think we're all, yeah, please.
Barbara, I would love to just be able to see what people created. As the art therapist, I'm very interested in what the page looks like for people and what they're bringing forward. So I don't know if people feel comfortable if you just put your picture in your
there you go.
Video camera. Yeah, because I would just love to see it.
Okay. Anybody? We're game.
I'm gonna play with spotlighting different people so we can see. Just
oh, that's beautiful. And we don't know who you are, but it's beautiful.
Let's see.
Thank you. Oh, please hold it up. Please hold that up. My goodness.
Yes, my name's Susie. I work at MGH. I'm a communications director for the Celiac Center. And I'm a mature expressive art therapy student, and I had the great joy of going to school with Erica.
I love Susie.
Yeah,
Susie,
4 years ago.
Susie's an art therapist as well, and a music therapist.
That's right, yeah. Trapped in my PR job, but I'm working on getting out of it.
You're gonna do it.
What?
You're gonna do it.
Yes,
It's gonna
yes.
happen.
Yeah. So, but my picture, I took it very literally, like what I learned today. And what I learned today was how to use tap on a coffee, paying for my coffee. And I opened up the New Yorker and I saw 3 images immediately, like within 2 pages, that all talked about, all shouted technology and connection. So, yeah, it was weird.
Terrific. Thank
That's
you.
what happens when you
Thank
work with
you.
Erica. No.
Right. We're
Thanks
going
a
to see
lot.
what some other people did.
Mhm.
Erica, it's your call to talk to people about this.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, if you're spotlighted, so Laurel, you're spotlighted. I don't know if you want to say anything. You don't have to say anything, but.
We see it.
Okay. Hi.
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 So this I popped this out of a magazine that I grabbed, and at first I was already feeling today really tired, but I knew that I could get up and do this. So just this Zoom meeting got me out of bed and got me moving because I'm always so tired from caregiving. But it's odd that this picture popped up. It had a feeling of real warmth and coziness, and I made a note that it looked like the person commands respect because they have so much knowledge or desire to have knowledge. So it was contrasting in the sense of my loved one isn't the kind of person in my mind who would sit in a big room like this. He's very casual, but he also likes to be very cozy, and his personality is one a pretty high level career. So it shows to me that he was very cozy and he's very friendly, but this is the guy behind the mask of dementia, so to speak. He didn't demand respect from people, but it's their obligation in his field of work that he receive a lot of respect. So the image just jumped out as one that, regardless of who this person is, this person, at least for my dad, really was this guy. He wasn't an academic, he worked in a different field, but, and then I'm
Yeah,
the academic, so I like both, so it jumped
that's
out.
wonderful.
And so I
Images speak so much to us.
because of the
Thank
books and that. Anyway.
Thank you.
I'll show one more person.
Yeah, and Erica, and also if we could also have back the first one that we didn't see, but please, let's see this. Erica, you speak, friend.
Oh, this is my mom. You're muted, Mom. You're muted. You're muted. Yeah, you have to unmute yourself.
You have to unmute. There we go.
How's that?
Good.
Okay. I am Erica's mom, and I think what I learned today more than anything is that preparation is vitally important. And this is kind of the contrast between the colors, and just getting started and being prepared to get started, I think is real important.
You raised a wonderful daughter. Thank you.
Thank you. I am so proud of her.
Yeah. Nori, can we ask perhaps if the person who showed us that first drawing can come back on?
Here we go, Cindy.
Sure.
Okay.
Susie.
Yeah, Cindy, so that Erica can comment. There you go.
Unmute myself. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that one. Cool.
I work at Easter Seals in Manchester, New Hampshire, and I'm an art person there, and I help them do all kinds of crafts and mostly painting, but it's been a fantastic journey, and I have been there for since 2014. I went to Mass Art, graduated in 91, and I work with people with all kinds of dementia, as well as physical problems that they've had a stroke, etc. And my heart has grown 5,000 times by being with these people. It's been an amazing, amazing journey. So, Erica, it's fantastic what you've showed us. It's absolutely wonderful. So,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And Erica, we have for closing, there's an important question from David. I have a client now that used to paint, but due to neuropathy, he can no longer hold paintbrushes. Do you have thoughts? Thank you, David.
Yeah, so neuropathy, it's a hard one. You want to make sure that, so you don't have to be confined to paint. There are so many different art modalities out there, and neuropathy, you're losing that feeling in your fingers. You could work on, I don't know what the person's abilities are, but you could get something like model magic. You could get clay, but I would start with model magic because it's not going to make their hands dirty. It's, I think it's made by Crayola, but you can get it in different colors. I honestly suggest just getting the white one and starting there. You can always add food coloring to it and change the color so the person then has some choices and they can make their own colors versus going off of the colors that they have. Neuropathy is a hard one, but I think that there's still ways to get them engaged depending on where they are in the spectrum of the disease process.
Yeah.
There you are.
Very frustrated. Like when you mention artwork or painting, he's like, I don't do that anymore. I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, so don't call it art. You know what, like don't relate it to the word art because he has a negative connection to that word is what it sounds like. And so for some people, I don't even talk about art. I often don't even introduce myself as an art therapist because I don't want them to have that bias, right? Because they may have already built up the bias. And so it might just be like, hey, I have this over here. I wonder how I can use it. Can you help me with whatever it is? So like with the model magic, or maybe it's going back to like the stepping stone, the first step with the image cards and having the person talk through art. So offering up questions about art, that might be the way that they get access now. And then through those conversations, you can find out things. So for instance, I guess I'll bring this one back. I really like this picture. And there's a lot of questions that could be asked of a person. So what do you think they're doing? And so in my mind, without dementia, I think they're dancing, but I'm not going to say I think they're dancing. I'm going to wait for that person to give me what they think, and I'm going to accept their answer as true. So it might be something where you start at the basics and then have conversations over what's in the images. Other art supplies that you could use. I really like foam brushes. So the picture that I showed at the end of my presentation where someone was holding a canvas, that person just picked out 2 colors of acrylic paint and we used foam brushes. And that was a lot easier for that person to manage than an actual paintbrush. And also foam brushes, they have a lot of surface area. So they actually can hold more paint to bring across the canvas. And even today, like I'm always discovering things. Today I discovered I could use foam brushes with watercolors, with liquid watercolors. And so like you just pick up the foam brush and go across. Never thought to even do that. It was just something I was trying to make watercolors more adaptable for people.
Thank
So
you.
I don't know if that helps. You can always send me an email and I can think on it because I'll probably wake up in the middle of the night with an answer.
And I think final 2 comments actually are alike. And the references to timeslips.org. It's a wonderful organization. And they have photos that can generate conversations, much in the along the line of what Erica just spoke. And they have I've watched I know the site, and they have some good directions. Check it out. Wonderful resource. Monoprint. Ara Parker. Well, you can all see here. Erica, do you want to look at the last 2 comments?
Yeah, so monoprints, styrofoam plates can be recycled. Yeah, you can also just use everyday objects as printmaking tools or creating. I like the idea of like a styrofoam plate and the person can carve the surface and then they can put paint on it and make a print of it. That's something else that you can try. So it's not, depending on like, I'm going back to the neuropathy, but they can put some pressure on there and and kind of print using abstract art is important. So Dr. Lokan is here, and so she started Opening Minds Through Art, which is something you can go on their website. I think it's scriptsoma.org.
Yep.
Right?
And
Yeah.
let me just add a little bit. Inside that, there is specifically caregiver training. So if you go to scriptsoma.org and you go to training, one of the options is caregiver training. And in that, there are 19 lessons. They're divided into visual arts, music, movement, and you can choose the area that you want. And then what you see are short videos, 10, 11 minute, 12-minute videos, where a master teaching artist is teaching a caregiver how to do music, art, whatever, with someone who has dementia. So there's a 3 people video that you can look at, watch it, and then you shut off the video, and then you customize it to your own loved one. And there are 2 lessons in Spanish, the rest are in English, but it's a free resource that caregivers could take advantage of.
Oh, wow. Thank you, Dr. Lokan. I had no idea. Is that new?
It's developed by the National Center for Creative Aging, but then NCCA folded, and I was part of the board in there and part of developer of this 19 lessons. So they just moved it to the OMA website.
Oh, wow. That's
So-
great. Thank you so much for that resource.
Yeah.
Well, I think on the note that one of our national scholars has been able to teach our remarkable Erica something that's very exciting, and it adds to our excitement that there's so much for us to learn. And Erica, you have taught us so much tonight. And I think on behalf of all of us, certainly your mother and all of us, you've given us not just a wonderful evening, but I know I have new skills and I have a new appreciation for how to help caregivers be with their person with dementia. And there's just so much. I thank you, Erica, from the bottom of my heart. And I thank everyone for joining us tonight. And I thank my colleagues. I just want to remind you that on February 16th, our next meeting will be with Dr. Brent Forrester, who is a chief of geriatric psychiatry at McLean Hospital. And his topic will be dementia and caregiving during the COVID era. And so that will be very helpful. I thank you all. I hope you'll continue to draw tonight, and we wish you all well. Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erica.